Good evening, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest show here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now, before I do welcome on my special guest, here is a little bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Now, Brighton have had a very, very good season so far. They sit in sixth spot. They've only played 19 games. They're at the halfway stage. They've had a change of manager. They've sold players that collectively are worth over £100 million. It's been a pretty good season. Let's find out how good it's been. And it is a pleasure to welcome onto the show Luke Linx. Good evening, Luke. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all good, Craig. I'm absolutely buzzing, to be honest with you. Like, coming to play Bournemouth Saturday, I'm excited for it. And how are you doing?
Yep, all good. And made quite a lot of signings in the transfer window. We will come to your activity in the transfer market in a moment because it's very, very impressive. But Brighton played 19 games so far this season, so you are at the halfway stage. You haven't played us yet, of course, but you're sat in sixth place, and it's been very, very impressive. Did you expect Brighton to do that well?
Honestly, no, because we were so pleased last season on where we got, and we already broke a record on last season's points. And to be quite honest with you, we thought, are we going to do that well again for the next season? I think, well, no, is the answer to that question. But you know what? Dreams come true, I guess.
Well, exactly. And a club that, a little while back were in similar league to us. And you went through some really, really difficult stages. I remember Brighton effectively being kicked out of the Goldstone ground, having to play at the Withdean for so long, and finally, thankfully, moving to Farmer. Of course, coming back to this season, and Graham Potter did fantastically well for Brighton and built such a good squad of players. But of course, he went to Chelsea. Did you think at that point that things might just drop off a little bit?
Yeah, well, it was a scary time for Brighton, I felt, as a fan. I thought, Graham Potter leaving the club as he built that amazing foundation and really got Brighton off the feet, off the ground. And especially, we were struggling with Chris Hughton. We really, really were. And I think it was the right time for him to leave. Graham Potter came at the right time and was a great, manager to come in and sort the club out, do something a little different. And he really, he did a lot for us, and he built, a really good Brighton team that it is today.
I kind of likened it, and I know very different situation, but I likened it a little bit to Eddie Howe leaving this football club, where he got those players knowing exactly how to play. He wasn't before he got to Brighton, a well-known name, and got everything ticking. And then De Zerbi come in, and somebody who's had quite a modest managerial career, and he's just continued it.
Yeah, he's absolutely unbelievable, to be honest with you. And again, it was another risk. Was he going to do as well as Potter was? Was he going to carry it on? What was he going to do? He could have really messed up everything that we built with Potter, to be quite honest with you. But as soon as he came in, the first game he came in was obviously away at Anfield, which is
Yep.
difficult as it is anyway. And, we went and got a point out of that game. And at one point we were beating them, 2-0. So it was crazy match. And do you know what? Roberto De Zerbi has done unbelievably well for Brighton coming in. And he's actually brought a lot more attack to the side as well. I felt, we're banging in more goals than we did with Potter. So some would say that Roberto De Zerbi is an upgrade to Potter. He's kept the defence as good as it was with Potter, but he's actually increased the attack side of things.
And it's also, and I've had a look at some of the figures here, and the activity in the transfer market. So just looking at this season alone, Brighton have made 125.4 million in player sales.
Yeah.
You've spent 45.6 million, so less than what we have.
Yeah.
But you haven't regressed at all. You've stayed. In fact, you've got better.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, it's mad how we keep progressing, and it makes you wonder, especially as a Brighton fan myself. It kind of wonders how far are we going to go until we start slowing down a little bit, because it seems like every year we seem to be improving, and it's crazy. I mean, yeah, our scouts and everything have been amazing behind the scenes as well. Bringing in these Ecuadorians and South Americans for so cheap and going on to what they are today. Moisés, Caicedo being one of the biggest out of the lot.
And of course, a World Cup winner as well in Alexis Allister. Before he got to Brighton, I'll be honest, didn't know much about him at all. And look at what he's done since. The scouting is absolutely first class, and I think it's something that we're now looking up to Brighton thinking, how do we replicate that? But in your eyes, how do you think that they have actually pinpointed these players? Have they got scouts dotted everywhere? Is it that is it due to big competitions? Or how are they picking these players out?
I think it's the question everyone wants to ask, especially from a Brighton fan. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I don't really understand it. I mean, it's amazing for us. It's an amazing feeling for us, considering, we were at one point that club in the Championship where we're always at that point where we nearly got to the Premier League, but we didn't just quite get there. And I think another great accomplishment that people don't really talk about a lot is as soon as we went up to the Premier League for the very first time, we haven't gone back down, which has been, I think, the biggest achievement out of it all, really. How long can we keep that up? How long can we stay in the Premier League without going back down again?
And I remember, going back to your first season in the Premier League, of course, it was Bournemouth's first win against Brighton after what I would say is quite a slow start. But you've come on leaps and bounds since then. Just going back to the transfer activity, of course, Moisés Caicedo was part of what looked like it was going to be a deadline day deal, but it never went across the line. Brighton refused to sell. And I know Paul Merson, I've just had a look at this as well, has actually come out and said he wasn't impressed with how Brighton treated Moisés. But to be perfectly honest, I think Brighton have done the right thing. Firstly, you could have been £70 million richer on top of that 125 million, which again even strengthens, the fantastic work in the transfer market you've done prior to this. But I think you've stood your ground there as well, which is good. And it shows that maybe Tony Bloom is thinking we can get into Europe.
Well, it's a really interesting one actually about Moisés. I mean, a lot of people are on the fence with it. Really, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's his new agents that are trying to get him out. They want a bigger, they want that pay rise coming." And I think, to be honest with you, I think Brighton have done a really good job with it. I think Roberto De Zerbi as a head coach has been on a personal level. I remember him saying on an interview that he wasn't talking to him just as a coach. He was talking to him more as a father figure for him, and saying, "Do you know what? Let's just hold off to the end of the season. I know it's a lot of excitement for you, and you want to move to that dream London club that you've been wanting to do, but I think it's better that you just stay for the rest of the season." And I think they've done it well, and I think they've kept it as calm as they could have done, really, Brighton. And Tony Bloom is a guy that loves to make profit on players and on various other things to do with the club as well. So, he could have easily just sold him and got rid of him, and then we would have been in the mud there a little bit. But I think they've done a really good job on it, and I think Roberto De Zerbi's handled it well as a head coach as well.
Mm-hmm. You've got Lallana as well, somebody who actually come through the academy at Bournemouth. Only played 3 games, and in fact, during a loan move for the club. What's he brought to the squad so far?
Oh, loyalty. He's brought, he's a real good figure for the younger players, especially. And would we say we're quite a young club at the moment, or quite an old club? I wouldn't really know what to say with that. I mean, to be honest, it's an interesting one because we have Dunk, and he's a great role model to the younger players, especially in more defence area. But Adam Lallana, I don't know what it is with him. I can definitely see him being a manager, going forward into his later career. But yeah, he's brought a lot to us, Adam, and I really like him. I like his loyalty, and I like what he does with the club. And Roberto De Zerbi thinks very highly of him as well.
And you mentioned there Lewis Dunk and also Pascal Gross as well, players that have been at Brighton for a long period of time, and are still getting their places in the squad. So it shows that the players that are there have progressed. And do you think that how much have they come on since being promoted from the Championship?
What, the players that have been in the
yes, so been in the side from the start of the Premier League.
Yeah, well, I think I think they've done really well coming up, especially throughout the years, and I think Solly March, Dunk, especially them two. I think they've been a real asset to the club, and I think their loyalty has helped as well. And I just think Brighton altogether, we're bringing in new players. I think they are so good with settling them, and it's just something, I don't know what it is, but it's just every new player that seems to come seems to really enjoy their time here at the club.
Of course, we made 6 signings. During the season so far, we've spent £75 million, but we've spent I think sensibly during this last window, again on youngsters, but players with a real desire and drive to get better. Okay, we've signed Randolph, but as a backup goalkeeper. Are you concerned to be playing us straight after we've made those signings?
I mean, it's an interesting one. I did look up actually the last time we played, and it doesn't feel as long ago as 2020. It really doesn't. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Do you know what I think as well coming up against Bournemouth Saturday is I think they've had quite a bad streak lately, and I think they are making changes to the squad. How far they're going to keep losing? How far they're going to keep drawing? Surely a win is going to come soon. And I wonder, is it the time Saturday for Bournemouth to get something against Brighton? That's what worries me. And I'm not going to go into the game thinking that, we've just beaten Liverpool again for the second time in 3 weeks. We should be absolutely smashing them because, you know what? Bournemouth had a bit of a bad run. And I think surely they're going to turn it around at some point. They're going to win a game at some point. And Brighton's a team that they possibly could do it against.
It sounds crazy because if you had asked me, after that Forest game, I thought I couldn't see us getting anything from the Brighton game. But with the players that we bought in, of course, we bought in a centre-back. Atara looks a fantastic player. Vina as well from Roma. It's a whole completely different complexion that we have now got to complement, and it's going to be the players that haven't been performing that are going to be dropping out. And I've got quite a bit of faith now going into this. I think they'll want to prove themselves, and it's better to prove yourself against a team like Brighton who have done so well, but also done a similar sort of thing that maybe we aspire to do.
Yeah, I mean it's a really interesting one, and as I say, I think you've got more positives, even though we've done well in the last couple of fixtures, and we've beaten Liverpool and all that. But I will be honest, when it comes to players and when it comes to squads, you've got a lot more positives than we have right now. We've got Evan Ferguson, that's just now gone out on injury. We have Colwill on injury. We have Lallana on injury. Obviously. Trossard's left us as well. I think this transfer market has hit us quite a lot at the moment. Injuries, we've got a few injuries at the moment as well. We're going to have to rely on Danny Welbeck or Dennis Undav to get the goal Saturday. So, I think you do have a lot more positives when it comes to the squad. But because we have that good streak with games at the moment and getting good points, it's going to be an interesting one. That's what I'm going to say.
How big a loss is Trossard?
See, now, I wouldn't have said this if Evan Ferguson didn't get injured. Because, Evan Ferguson's on fire at the moment and he was doing so well until Fabinho took him out from behind. But, the thing is with Trossard is a lot of people are like, is he a big miss? Is he not? I think so, in my opinion. I think Trossard has been with us since, I think it's the 2016 to 17 season. So he's been with us a while, as long as Gross, possibly. And to be honest with you, it's it is a bit of a hit, especially now that we have Evan Ferguson on injury and we have to rely on Danny Welbeck. That's only scored once this season. So, I think it is a little bit of a hit. Yeah.
Of course, we'll come to the predictions in a moment, but I think I need to ask this question. Do you think, seriously, you can get Europe this season? Because I've got to be honest, it would be amazing to see Brighton in Europe after everything the club has been through. And even I saw some highlights earlier on of quite a tough match at the Withdean. Back from 2010, I don't know if you remember it, and of course Steve Fletcher and Tommy Elphick coming up against each other in quite a clash. Of course, Tommy Elphick was playing for Brighton at the time.
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's way before my time. I'm only 18 years of age, and
Fair
I wasn't
enough.
there to see all that action. But it seems interesting. It seems very interesting. I mean, it is a South Coast matchup, so it's going to be a good one. It's going to be interesting.
Do you think you can get Europe?
Do I think we can get Europe? Do you know what? It all depends, really. I think, I would like to get Europe by hitting the FA Cup and in that trophy, of course, because then I wouldn't stress as much on the actual league and I would enjoy the league a lot more and not have the pressure on winning those games in the league. But the possibility's there. But I tell you what, through this month, through January, there's been a lot that's hurt us and a lot that's put us down a little bit. So I think I was a lot more confident before January, and I was thinking, do you know what? I really think we're going to do it this season. But now there's a few issues that have happened with a few injuries and players left, the Trossard. I think, maybe I need to just pipe down a little bit. I'm gonna say we could do it because I like to be positive. I like to be positive for all the Brighton fans on my channel, and I'm going to say we can do it. I'm going to say we can pull it off.
Well, I really do hope you do, because I think it would just be great to see Brighton in Europe. And also, again, it's something for us to aspire to and a dream, really. Before we come on to the predictions, what I wanted you to do, though, is tell everybody where they can find you.
I appreciate that. Well, Everyone can find me on YouTube, Luke Linx Brighton. Links is spelled Linx, and I do match day vlogs and other Brighton content talking about transfer rumours, transfer news, and various other things talking about Brighton, basically.
Awesome stuff. And
Thanks, man.
all the details, not a problem at all, mate. All the details are in the description. And, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I know this always sounds quite pointless. And to be honest, I don't really know which way it's going to go because of our signings. But I've got to ask it. How do you think it's going to go?
See, if we want to, in all honesty and respect to Bournemouth, if we want to get Europe, I think Bournemouth should be a game that we should be winning. I
Fair
think
enough.
if we want to get to up there in that Conference League, into that Europa League, then we definitely need to be beating Bournemouth, the Leicesters, and we haven't beaten Leicester. But look, with all respect to you, we weirdly play not as good against teams like Leicester, Bournemouth, Wolves, and all that. So it's going to be an interesting one. See what we can do Saturday. My score predictions is going to be 2-1 to Brighton. I know it's a bit boring. 2-1s are a bit boring. But I'm going to go with a Matoma brace. Oh, and for Bournemouth. Actually, to be honest with you, I'm not sure of Bournemouth. But I'm going to go with a Matoma brace.
I'm gonna put my neck on the line. I'm gonna say, to be honest, I'd be happy with a 2-1 win for Bournemouth, and I think that's the way I'll go. I'm not going to bet against my own team, and in fact, I think goal scorers. Again, it's going to be quite difficult because, of course, the new signings as well. Who's going to play out of those? I think Katara. I think, he come very, very close against Nottingham Forest. I think he'll get one. I'm hoping Solanke will be back, but I think it'll be either Solanke or Moore. And I've got to say, Mitoma looks really, really good when I've seen him. Of course, he scored that goal against Liverpool to win that tie, didn't he? And, he looks a real, real talent. Another one you've got. You just seem to find them, don't you?
Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy. And to be honest with you, I was thinking about this myself earlier, and I'm thinking, if I was Roberto De Zerbi, and obviously Ferguson's now injured, and he was our top scorer at the moment for now, because he's now on injury, and because Toma keeps scoring at the moment, it might even be worth shoving him up front to see what he can do to try and bang in some goals, because he seems to be scoring a lot at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if Roberto De Zerbi, if Welbeck can't score, or Dennis Undav, might be worth putting him actually up front, which would be quite interesting. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see how it goes. But Luke, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you'll be at the game on Saturday.
No, yes, absolutely will be. I'll be vlogging away, getting interviews with people, seeing their score predictions. But listen, I really appreciate you inviting me on today. It's I don't normally go on other channels. I probably should more, but I really appreciate you coming on.
You'll be there, of course, on Saturday. Unfortunately, I won't, because after 3 years, it's finally got me, the old COVID. So, yes, unfortunately, but we'll have to cap. I have done quite well, I'm quite pleased with that unbeaten streak, but yeah, unfortunately, it's got me just before Brighton away as well. Of course, the first game was postponed, and now can't go to this one. So we'll definitely make the one
to
to
go to as well, isn't it? It's not too far away, and it's
exactly.
I always like going down the south coast. And you know what I will say as well about Bournemouth? Please try and stay up if you can, because I love going down to the south coast, and I go to every home and away game, and I always love, this season's been brilliant, especially because Bournemouth, Southampton have been here. So we've had a lot of close teams in the Premier League this year. So I haven't had to travel too far. obviously we have Burnley coming up and Sheffield
Yeah.
United, like they're coming up from the Championship. So they look like they're going to be, long away days for me. So I'm hoping for you guys. I am praying for you guys to stay up because, I like to have the South Coast teams in the Prem.
Yeah, cheers, mate. And, hopefully Everton, that's miles away. Who else should we send down? Forest and
Wolves.
Wolves. Yeah, that's another long journey in it. So, yeah, let's keep it to the South Coast. But, Luke, absolutely pleasure to have you on, mate.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Cheers, mate. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this show. Please do remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please do also check out our previous interviews as well. We've had, of course, Steve Cook, Charlie Daniels, James Hayter, and lots more as well. So do check those out. Unfortunately, I won't be at the game, but do feel free to send in your reaction videos that would be put on Cherries Extra, our sub-channel. You can find that if you scroll all the way down on the main screen to the very bottom. There's the Cherries Extra logo. Click on that, and you can watch any raw reaction videos that anybody submits as well. That is your place to submit whatever the hell you want. But until the next show, Up the Cherries, and we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us.